Hi. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me. This is Pilar's Corner, and we're going to be talking about February at a glance, astrologically, thematically. We're going to see basically what energies are coming up for February, kind of reflecting a little bit on January, and just see what comes up, right? All information is good information because we're able to equip ourselves, take what resonates, leave the rest type of thing. And yeah, I'm excited to get into it though, because February is like, there's some cool shit happening in February. So let's get into it. If you stay until the end, I'm also going to be doing a card reading for February, and just a message to keep with you. And again, keep what resonates. I'll leave the motherfucking reels. So, yes, if you're here, it's because you care about the journey that you're on holistically, truly holistically. We talk productivity on this channel. We talk genuine human stuff, right? The human experience and what that means, and not being afraid to get into the nitty gritty, the ambiguous, the mysterious. And yeah, taking into account all of the resources at hand. And you know what? That means the woo, that means the spiritual, that means trying to delve a little deeper into the things that we can come across in this world and in this universe. And does it mean something? Does it not mean something? I don't know. But we'd be idiots to not at least consider, right? To not consider, to not open ourselves up and see, how might this be able to help me just like enjoy my life a little bit more, right? And set me up for success a little bit more. So here we're going to meet yourself where you're at, and we're going to strive to manifest sustainable success as it means to us. All right. In the highest and best way, as it serves our highest and greatest good. Amen. 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 Let's get into it. All right, cool. So I'm going to share my screen. So what I really like to look at, there's a couple things that I like to look at. So I have two tabs open. One is, I always like to look at this site. It's the planets today. And it's really nice because they basically, you can see all the planets over here, right? So you can see, and then you can actually like click through. You can see what happens. We got the moon over here. So I like this website. I also like this website, AstroSeek. And I'm just asking, like, what's the monthly astro calendar? Okay. So we have kind of all the events here. And I can kind of see them listed out here. And then I can also see them visually here. Okay. So first things first, because, we out here sipping our tea. The first thing I noticed, honestly, like going through this, whoop, do you see these planets over here? Whoop. So we got a party. We got a party going on over here in this whole ass quadrant, if you will. You can see all this activity is very centralized between Aquarius, Pisces, and moving into Aries. Like, that's cool. And it only lets me go until March 6th. So, like, with that being said, like, it feels like there's this intense unification that's happening between all the planets. I mean, and on a very practical level, like, this shit's gonna look really pretty. Okay, so wherever you are, I would try to like get one of those apps where you can, there's some really cool, I think there's one that's like Sky Map or something like that. I used to have it on my old phone, and literally it has like, it's basically, what is it called? Not AI, it's overlay. So but anyways, you can it knows the compass on your map. So you're on your phone. So it knows like where you're pointing at. and you can point it at the sky, and it will actually tell you, like, here are the constellations, here are the stars, and even if you can't see them, which is really cool. And, what might seem like a really bright star or like a really, like, wow, like that looks really pretty, like that's such a cool star. It could be a planet. It could be a planet. So this is really cool because this is actually going to look really pretty in the sky. We're going to see, I believe it's called like a parade. They call it like a planet parade or something like that. Um, but it's a party. That's what it is. It's a party. So I would get one of those apps because this looks like it's happening mid of the month. No, I mean, it's all happening right now. Yeah, it's happening right now. But this is really cool because it's all kind of like lined up. And so there should be a point at which they all are kind of like either around the same area. We're looking at it from Earth's perspective over here. So that's Western astrology. So Western astrology looks at all the constellations from Earth's perspective. The other option is Vedic astrology. Vedic astrology looks at it from like the opposite, basically. Earth as part of the constellation, as part of the lineup of planets. It doesn't make Earth special, basically. It doesn't make Earth the center of the universe as we're doing here. But that's how we do. So anyways, and not to say that's right, wrong, good, better, best, or whatever, but that is Western astrology, just so you know. So anyways, I see that. What does that mean? We're looking at, we've got this Aquarius, and we already talked about it for the like looking at January, which is that we saw a lot of interesting stuff happening between Capricorn and Aquarius. We saw this, really like transformation of all this energy going into like, how do I, Capricorn wants to do things well. Capricorn sees that there is vocational joy and vocational purity in um doing things well and doing them right and doing the things that like align with what your talents are. It's very important to a Capricorn, right? Is to have that and to be celebrated for it, essentially, which we all want to be celebrated for it. Could be kind of parallel to like the Virgo energy. Virgo energy also has this sort of like do well, but not necessarily focused on vocational purity. It doesn't necessarily have to be about work. It is about, in general, do the right thing, right? In general, do the right thing. Capricorn is like where you spend your time, where you spend your efforts, and where you're making money. How do you create this beautiful, efficient trifecta is by tapping into your vocational strengths, right? So that's Capricorn moving into Aquarius. Aquarius is the rebel with a cause. So we saw this sort of like, okay, like work hard, focus, and how do we tap into this efficiency with our strengths so that we can maximize productivity, right? And then Aquarius is going, how do we break the rules though in a good way? How do we break the rules for better? How do we make this work even cooler, right? How do we look at this from a different angle? How do we shatter the glass ceiling, right? Like rules are work, right, for the rules. But is there a better way to do it? That was the Aquarius energy that was happening and that we're still moving through, right? Aquarius and Mars is going to move through that. And we're still seeing Mercury and Venus moving through that, moving out and going into Pisces. When we look at the astrological wheel and signs, we're really seeing a story being told of the self, essentially, and the spiritual journey. Kind of similar to when you're looking at tarot cards and you see all the major arcana. from the Fool moving on towards, everything kind of moves into it's a story being told, and it's essentially like a life journey that you really are likely to experience. Of course, we can move 3 steps forward, 10 steps back, like there's multiple stories happening at once. This is like the nuance of the human journey, and the human experience. But we always there's always themes happening. And in certain areas, we may feel themes overlapping into different areas, but we can also just feel a heavier presence, a heavier energy during certain times. And that's essentially what we're talking about here, is that I wouldn't be surprised if in multiple areas of your life, you're feeling this energy of like, I want to do better. I want to do better, right? I want to do better. And what's cool is we're also seeing this like on a bigger scale. Um, we're seeing, Neptune and Saturn have been on this Pisces Aries cusp. And Neptune is going to be moving into Aries for like the next 20 odd years or something, which is going to be really cool. Really cool, because we go from the end of the zodiac into the beginning of the zodiac. And insert evil laugh, because I am an Aries. I have an Aries sun and an Aries Mercury. So, communication is one. My communication and my sun sign, sort of my personality, I guess you could say, are very aligned. Thankfully. But with that being said, we're talking about the life cycle. We're talking about the journey. We're talking about moving through the astrological wheel. So we move from Aquarius, rebel with a cause. How can I do better? How can I do better? How can I do better? Moving into this Pisces energy, which is, Pisces the goal of Pisces, the goal, and if you followed me for a while through the years, I mean, I've done content on various different channels, and you're new. I always talk about the astrological signs according to their goals, or according to their end goals, because we can meet a lot of different kinds of the same sign, and we're going like, what is happening here? But everyone's kind of moving towards the same end goal with that sign's energy. And we have different paths to get there. Good examples like Libra. There are Libras that attract chaos, and there's Libras that create chaos. So you may see a Libra who doesn't seem like a flake at all, but is like in a family of crazy people. Right? My brother. We all crazy in the family, except for him. Or you might see like a Sagittarian who kind of comes off maybe more as a Capricorn, who is very good at their job, very hustle, very let's go, very work, work, work. And you might meet another Sagittarius that's just kind of like all over the place, like absolutely cannot get their shit together, right? So on and so forth. But that's because everyone's kind of moving towards the end goal of that sign. And that's not to go without saying the fact that we have lots of different signs in our chart. It's not just our sun sign. We have a lot of things at play that's happening and influencing us and pushing and pulling. So when I talk about the end goal, it's important that we look at basically kind of what is the intention, right? Where is that person? What are they going to learn, right? What is the learning that they're going to go through? With Pisces, it is the external expression of the internal self. That's why when we see a toxic Pisces, they're really good at making up stories, right? And I am totally generalizing, I know, but yes, right? And it's because they're taking this thing that comes naturally to them, but they're using it in a toxic way. Okay. Same thing like Aries. It's very easy for an Aries who they have a natural talent for being a leader. can abuse that power if they're being toxic and just be an asshole, be super bossy, be super overpowering, not considerate of others. But they have a natural talent for leadership, but they're not channeling it correctly. And eventually they're going to go through that learning curve of realizing, like, okay, how can I do this better? How can I take this natural talent that I have and use it for essentially for good and for, like, sustainable productivity and success in my life. So when we're looking at Pisces, which is where all these planets are basically moving through, okay, which is, I should mention, the last sign in the zodiac, okay, we're seeing, and what I really like about Pisces, which actually their home planet is Neptune. And Neptune, I think, is, in my opinion, it's like the most spiritual of the planets because it's kind of this sense of oneness. It's this kind of where out meets in and where in meets out, right? It's this philosophical sense of oneness with you and everything else. And with Pisces, again, we try to categorize what would be good um vocations for certain signs. And for Pisces, writer, right? We see a lot of writers with Pisces, and or artists. And again, it's because there's this sense of wanting to be authentic in the expression of how we're feeling or what we're seeing or what we're envisioning. How do I extrapolate this from my soul? How do I express, right? Poetry, just striking visual detail in words. There is a desire, there's a pull, there is a purpose in that desire to need to have the two become one, um, which I feel like is actually very similar to almost the Leo end goal in a different way. The Leo end goal is, how do I express myself authentically, right? The most authentic possible, that my personality and who I am and how I feel and how I think are perfectly expressed through the physical, right? How do I show everyone who I am on the inside? That's why sometimes you see Leos with really great fashion sense or really interesting fashion sense, or they just have a real sense of self, right? It's also why we see sometimes the toxic trait of a natural talent, selfishness, right? It's because they're striving to be as authentic as possible, and it's me, 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 me. But really, it's this desire to express themselves authentically. So again, coming back to Pisces. So we have this Pisces, we have all this energy moving through it. That cycle of oneness, of wanting the exterior to meet the interior, to have this sense of like, oh, okay, it all fits, it all makes sense. There is room for everything all at once, right? The way this might be showing up in your life is clarity, right? Is clarity. And it can be showing up in a way that says, you're doing it right. You're doing it right. It can also be showing up in a way that says, oh, girl, you're doing it wrong, 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 wrong. Because again, everyone's chart is different. Okay. I do read charts. I'm not reading your chart. So take that into consideration. Okay. Because you might have certain retrogrades or squares, certain aspects that is going to make certain things a little spicy for you. You're going to have to work out of that salsa move in a little bit different way. What is interesting is that as we're moving sort of out of this, okay, out of Aquarius into Pisces, we're eventually going to move into things being square Jupiter, which is a spicy place to be because Jupiter can be considered, here's Jupiter, can be considered like the planet of luck. I consider it the planet of opportunity. It's, because luck is when preparedness meets opportunity. All right. So we have to be in a state of preparedness, which is why having energy come from Capricorn to Aquarius, now moving into Pisces, if, say, best case scenario, you're looking at a place where all that hustle, all that grief, all that ideating, all that starting and stopping is going to meet a place of peace and a sense of self. That's best case scenario. Okay, that's best case scenario. And the fact that it's happening with all these planets, you know, Mercury, Venus, Mars, right? The fact that that's just all moving. The sun is going to be in Pisces too. Hello, right? There's just a lot of power in this that's happening. And then at a certain point, we have the moon. Boop, boop, where'd you go? Moon, 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 right? So at a certain point, when Aquarius is moving into Pisces, we also have the moon in there. And along with everything else also kind of moving in there too. So what does this mean for you? What does it mean for you? It means to be open to the opportunities that can lie, lum ahead for you in your process. Aquarius, I want to bring something from January into February, and that's the honoring the process. People also like to say, trust the process. One of my favorite sayings that I made up is tolerate the process. Okay, tolerate the process. And that means, because not a lot of us hoes out here have a lot of trust. We got trust issues. So just to keeping in mind, sometimes it's not about trust. It's about tolerate. Sometimes we got to tolerate the process because it's going to happen with or without you. The question is, are you going to be ready? Are you going to allow yourself to be open and prepared? Okay. And that's where that Aquarius energy was coming in, was like, okay, how can I look at this a different angle? You may have been forced to look at things from a different angle. You may have had things happen to you and you go, oh, okay, I didn't think of it that way. You may have also had experiences where things happened differently, but it was a nice different. And you're going, oh, shoot. Okay, yeah, like that actually works. Now we're getting comfortable with that idea. We're getting comfortable with new, when it comes to old, right? Teaching an old dog new tricks. Oh, we realize it's actually possible. Go figure, right? Go figure. So we're learning how to maneuver that. But in my experience, we always come back to the same place. We always come back to the same place. We like to think that we're reinventing the wheel, but really we're just walking around it. We're just trying to get a different view to realize what it is that we're working with and what we've always been working with. That's the journey of self-development and self-discovery, okay? And that's where Pisces comes in. That's where Pisces comes in, baby. Because Pisces is telling you that it's possible to feel that full cycle, to go all the way around that perspective of self and go, oh, now I get it. Now I get it. Now it all makes sense, right? And to feel a sense of oneness with that. Let's get a little bit into the specific planets and the planet energy that this represents, okay? So Mercury, Venus, and then eventually Mars, which is going to happen more in March, okay? But more specifically, Mercury and Venus. And we can talk about the sun as well in terms of like the how that influences sort of the external self and how, it can come out through personality. But Mercury and Venus. So Mercury is the planet of data. We like to think about it as a planet of communication, technology. It's the planet of data. It's information. Okay. It's literally like the exchange, how we interact, how we exchange, how we absorb, right? How are we listening? How are we speaking? What is the information that we're receiving? What is the information that we're giving? How are we interacting with that information? How are we experiencing that information? Okay. So that's Mercury. So it's also, right, talking our voice, it's our ears, right? So it's possible because Venus is planet of balance, and we like to call it the planet of relationships, which we can, but it's relationships not just with other people. It's relationship with ourselves. It's a relationship with our friends, with our family. Balance, right? Balance. How do we find balance? Because we're not monoliths, right? We are complete multi-dimensional beings interacting with multi-dimensional things, people. So how do we find balance within ourselves? And considering that Mercury, talking, listening, you might find yourself, relationships, you might find yourself in a place where you feel like you're communicating and talking to and listening to alignment, the sense of oneness in the people that surround you, the people you associate with, a clear vision of who you want to associate with, a clear vision of who you are, right? And finding actual sense of balance in that, finding an actual sense of like, okay, like I don't feel so lost because I feel like I have an anchor point in like what my value system is, what's important to me, what I'm interested in, what I'm passionate about. Because those are the things that we have a tendency to research, that we have a tendency to watch, read, talk about, right? All these things. And so all of that might feel quite nicely aligned. Okay, quite nicely aligned. Neptune. We see Neptune and Saturn kind of like grazing the line here from Pisces into Aries. And that's the next progression that I want to talk about, okay? The next progression I want to talk about is like this Pisces to Aries energetic transition. And I apologize, I didn't really talk about Pisces and Sun. I am going to have like a Pisces season video specifically to talk about the Sun. But just kind of top level here. This is, Sun is the personality. It's kind of like we think about the tools that make up who we are and how we interact with the world. Okay, that's kind of our personality, and how we choose to sort of come off, or like more how we intentionally choose to interact with the world around us when we're angry, when we're sad. What are the tools that we're working with? There's also something called the rising sign, which is the sign that's in your first house. Okay. You can literally go to like find your astrological calendar, make sure you know what time you're born, and you can see what your rising sign is. What your rising sign is how you come off to other people. So we like to say that your rising is kind of what people see from afar, and your sun is what people see close up. So people who are acquaintances with you will see you more through the lens of your rising sign, okay, which can be totally different. It normally is. But your sun sign is like your actual personality. So when people actually meet you and they meet the substance of you and what you're working with, that's your personality, right? That's your sun sign specifically. So for instance, my sun sign is Aries. So I like to do things head on. I'm very interested in taking leadership roles. I think being a leader in everything we do is very important. More specifically, Aries, it's about kind of facing the thing that we're afraid of and just embracing bravery, right? We want to do the brave thing. We also want to feel courage when we're feeling courageous. We want to feel fear and know that we can overcome it, is essentially what an Aries comes down to. My rising sign is Cancer. So when you first meet me, and this is why I think on my channel I come off more as an Aries, is because I can just be myself. But when I'm interacting with people, I come off very much as a Cancer. I'm very interested in people. I immediately want to nurture them. I immediately want to create space for them. I immediately want people to feel safe. Okay. And I want to honor the whole self. And that's Cancer. Cancer is all about honoring the fact that you have a trillion different emotions, and that's part of being human. You have to embrace that. That's the end goal. Eventually you'll realize as a Cancer, like, yes, your rage, your gullibility, your whatever parts of yourself that you hate the most, like, guess what? That's still part of you. Like, that's the Cancer end goal. That's my rising sign. So, okay, whether you know me close up or whether you know me from afar, you're going to see different sides of me for sure. And the people who know me the best, they're like, oh my God, you ratchet asshole. You hood rat, and it's true because I swear a lot. Yeah, I'll fire. But when I first meet people, I just want to hug them and I want them to feel safe. Um, so those two can sometimes, I can feel a lot of conflict when it's like, oh no, they saw the fire. I hope I didn't burn them on accident. But yeah, so that's that. So that Pisces personality. Okay, so now we're talking about sun. I know I said I was going to do a top level, and that wasn't really top level. But speaking specifically about sun in Pisces, okay, or Pisces in the sun. Sun in Pisces. I just mixed myself up. Like, how do you? It's like when you think of a word, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, how do I spell that? I've spelled that a dozen times, but somehow it sounds weird to spell when, When. Anyways, I digress. ADHD. Okay, so Pisces sun. What you're going to see is that, again, that externalization of the internal experience. You're going to see more of that sort of communion, that desire for the communion, which can come off as interest in people. It can come an interest in a thing, but it's going to be very philosophical. And that can come off, like, you might come off more as being open to the philosophical, or being open in that space of your life where you're going, right? There's room for everything to exist. There's room for all of this to exist. And just thinking of the more philosophical instead of maybe perhaps the literal, and the rules, and the frustrations with, but you might be pulling yourself back to see the whole self. That might be, that might either complement well with your actual sun sign. It might not. We'll see. We shall see. So now moving on, I want to talk about this progression into Aries. Okay. And this is the last thing I'm going to talk about. And I'll go into kind of what, in this calendar here, see if there's anything that pops out, specifically talking about the moon, because that's pretty much the other thing we haven't talked about. But looking at this progression of these planets into Aries, so the Pisces to Aries transition, what is that? We're going from the ending to the beginning. To me, we're just going right back to like zeros and ones. Like, what's happening here? It's like you can feel completion just to have to struggle again. Like, what's going on now? When we have a sense of like philosophical oneness, and we're like, ah, yes, you have peace. You know the full self. Now, we can have that while simultaneously um, going through it on something else where we're not there yet. It's going to really be up to you to see and be open to where this might fit into your life. But when we have this sense of oneness, when we have this place of understanding, what's really cool about that is it's the equivalent of giving ourselves a break. It's the equivalent of giving ourselves grace. It's the equivalent of being able to breathe a full breath, right? Maybe you don't know it, but you're always taking half a breath because you're always, always uncomfortable a little bit, or you're always in a place of stress, or you're always trying to amp yourself up to do something, right? So maybe you're right, you're just like intense breathing or whatever. But Pisces, I just see that breath as just being like equally in, equally out, and letting that full cycle of a breath happen. When we have that, when we experience that, for some of us, it can last for a while. For others, it can be fleeting. It can be like, and then, oh, shoot, I gotta go pick up the kids, or, the laundry. Oh my God, I forgot to put the laundry in the dryer or whatever, right? Um, there's this great scene in Parks and Rec between and Amy Poehler uh and her co-star. Her co-star? Yeah. Um, but their names are, oh my God, how am I forgetting their names? Anne and what is Amy Poehler's name? Oh my God, I can't believe. I'm gonna just pull it up because I can. um, I love these people. Leslie Nope. Okay, so Amy's like super type A, super high achieving, like, and also has like extremely wonderful ideals, and just wants everyone to be happy and everyone to live their best life and everyone to take absolute maximum advantage of living, right? That's Amy Poehler. And then Rashida Jones, love Miss Jones. Ann Perkins. So Ann Perkins is, she's a nurse. They meet. She's not like that. And she's the one to kind of ground Amy every now and then, Leslie every now and then. And one time there, Anne is like, okay, take a deep breath. And Leslie goes, and she's like, now exhale. And she's like, okay, I'm ready. Like that was all the breath I needed to take. It's really funny. I love shit like that. Those are my comfort shows for sure. So anyways, that's kind of a tangent, but that's kind of how I feel the opposite of a Pisces breath is like allowing that full self to happen, just being in that place of um you don't feel like you're going too slow and you don't feel like you're going too fast. You feel like you're at one with who you are and you see yourself. Okay. Now, why is that important? Because as the saying goes, the calm before the storm. And again, for some of us, it can last and we can enjoy it. For others, it can be fleeting, right? It can also be why maybe going on vacation is really hard, or taking time for yourself, or meditation, right? You're like that's boring. Okay. So that calm before the storm. But eventually, because we're human and we're thinking and we're thinking and we're experiencing and we're moving and we're seeing things and we're talking to people, and at a certain point, we might have an idea. We might feel inspired. We're now, our cup is full. It's the equivalent of like a full cup. It's the equivalent of like you went to the gas station, you filled up your tank, and you're like, da, 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 I was so stressed out before, and now I have a full tank of gas, and it's going to be great, and we're good, and I don't know how I'm going to pay for it, but it's fine. Right? You're like, do, 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 right? And now that you have gas in the tank, you're like, okay, now I can go grocery shopping, and I can do this thing, and I can do that thing. Hey, maybe this weekend we can go for a trip with the kids to the beach or blah, blah, blah. Right now is the beginning of things. When we have a full cup, when we have a cleared landing zone, that's when opportunity and special things can happen. So Aries equips us. Aries equips us for the beginning, because what do we need in the beginning of every journey? We need gusto. We need a full tank of gas. We need a sense of purpose. We need a sense of purpose. We need a sense of like, okay, I'm ready. What are we going to do? And there needs to be some form of leadership, right? And we're not talking about being bossy and being like, okay, this goes there and that goes there and da 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 da. But we do need a sense of like stepping up to the plate. You don't have to be a good ball player or a bad ball player, okay? You just need to step up to the plate and hold that bat up. That's what's expected of you. And then in the moment, right, Aries is going to come through and say, let's channel that courage. Do we need courage right now, or do we have bravery? Okay? Because now you're up to the plate. And how are you going to respond to what's thrown at you? Because you don't know what's going to be thrown at you. So that's where it really, Aries becomes super powerful, is because life is ambiguous. We don't know what life is going to throw at us. And in the beginning of every journey, almost everything is new. Ambiguity is the name of the game. So you need to be able to access courage, and you need to be able to let your bravery have its moment. Okay. And just for those who don't know, because I'm such a stickler and this annoys the shit out of me when these two words get confused. Bravery, KK, bravery is when it's a scary thing, but it's not necessarily scary for you. So it's generally a scary thing, but you're like, let's do this, right? Jumping off a bridge. For somebody who maybe jumps off bridges all the time, they're like, yeah, I want to do this, right? I want to do this. That's brave, right? Talking in front of a lot of people. Maybe you're good at it. Maybe this is like, yeah, like it's a scary thing, but I'm like, I feel good, right? Courage is when you are scared and you do it anyway. Courage is the friend that comes with you to jump off the bridge and goes, I don't want to do I can't believe you talked me into doing this, right? That's courage. And then they do it and they're screaming their head off, right? That's courage. Courage is when the speaker at the conference goes, I want you to come up on stage, and I want you to introduce yourself, and I want you to talk about that experience that changed you, right? And it's like, what do you mean? Right? I'm getting emotional thinking about it. Right? Like, that's powerful, and you need courage for that. You need courage for that. But bravery is that person who gets up there all the time and goes, yeah, this shit's amazing, right? And appreciates it, but it's a scary thing, but they don't let that fear get to them, okay? So just understanding those two things. Aries wants to be able to access courage and let their bravery like just happen when it happens, right? that when they're feeling brave, that they don't hold themselves back for whatever optic reasons, right? It's like, I don't want to come off as an attention whore. I don't want to come off as like bossy. I don't want to come off as like a hog. I don't want to hog the time or whatever, right? But it's like, is what you're gonna say, or are you in a position of being able to provide value to recognize that and be like, yeah, I am gonna do this because I know that it's important. And even though the optics may be weird, I'm still gonna say something, right? That's being brave. Courageous in that moment is going, I don't want to say anything. My anxiety is flaring. And I feel like, and then on top of it, I feel like I'm going to be judged. On top of it, I feel like I'm going to say the wrong thing. I don't even know what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it, da 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 da. And it's like, it's just swallow your shit, pack up the negative voice, and say something. Okay. That's when you access your courage. So Aries wants to be there at the beginning because Aries wants you to buck the fuck up. Okay. So let Aries, okay, let Aries influence you when it comes into that, when you have the moment. And that's just, for me, I feel like anytime there's like a season, so it's like Pisces season, Aries season, Taurus season, it's just like an opportunity. It's like, what is the sign have to teach me? We have something to learn from all of the signs all of the time, okay? But it allows us a season, right? To think about it, to reflect on it. And sometimes it'll show up in our lives as an active opportunity to engage and to learn. Okay. So as we have all this energy moving into Aries, it really is asking you, and it's so interesting because again, things are eventually going to square Jupiter. It really does ask you, like, are you going to be prepared? Are you giving yourself, are you strengthening that muscle that reaches over and grabs courage when you need it? And are you validating your bravery in a way that says, when the opportunity arises, I will be ready? That's the preparation. That's what this all culminates towards, is preparing yourself to be ready when opportunity is on your doorstep. Saturn and Neptune moving into Aries says it's time to get to work. It's time to get to work. If there was ever a time to realize that you have power to do and you have value to add, it's going to be in the next, 20 odd years is a long time, but this next era of your life, just generally speaking, okay, this is the message for you, is like, you need to be prepared and ready to access that part of yourselves that says, you are valuable, you are valuable, you are important, period. You have something to add, and you have something to do. You have something to do. You have something to do. What is it? Okay. Let's stop thinking about it. Let's stop making excuses. It's time to do it. It's very, very powerful and important. Neptune moving from Pisces into Aries, from going into the philosophy. Like I said, Neptune is that home planet for Pisces. So that's really powerful. It's a really powerful place that the energies have been in. It's like oneness, philosophy. Right? It's all in the mind. And even though the goal is that the externalization of the internal experience, right? It's not to, be reductive the Pisces energy. But then it's like, okay, you've been spending all this time in this philosophical space. It's time to really put your money where your mouth is, because Neptune in Aries is going, yes. Aries is almost like full actualization of the Neptune energy of full oneness. How do you put that into action? Like, I would say an activist is like a perfect Neptunian Aries. A perfect energy for that, because it says put your legs, your hands, your feet, and your mouth where your heart is. Okay? And where your mouth is, but where your heart is. Like, really fucking do something. Don't just be in your head and in your heart about it. Like, do something about it. Be about it. Okay? So it's very exciting. It's very exciting. It's very wonderful. All right, let's look at the moon. Where do we have a moon? We've got, so we already kicked off the month straight up. The 1st of February was that full moon in Leo. Okay. And that was basically like, be yourself, express yourself. How do you be in authenticity with yourself? How do you show up physically in your authentic energy, right? How do you honor your authentic self, right? Through physical expression. And I was like, pow, right? So it's possible you felt that a lot. It's possible you didn't. Maybe you said things or did things and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. I mean, I meant it, but like, ooh, right? Or I can't believe I wore that. Or like, I'm so happy I wore that. Or I'm so happy I got that, or whatever, right? It's just like playing in that energy. Later on here, we have this is really cool. So we're gonna have a new moon in Aquarius. Okay, new moon in Aquarius. So we talked about Aquarius, rebel with a cause. Remember that, rebel with a cause. Okay, new moon. So it's like, okay, we're gonna take time, take a beat, and figure out, where can I be doing better? Let's think strategy. Is that working? That's not working. What are the options to make that work? How can I tap into that? Who do I know that could support that? Aquarius is a know everybody energy, because again, a rebel with a cause, how are you going to get anything done? You need a diverse group of people. You need an architect, you need a dreamer, you need you need a visionary, you need an organizer, you need all these different parts, right? Being able to access all these different kinds of things and peoples and talents is part of that Aquarian toolbox. And so being in that new moon, that very, very quiet beginning, it's like, right? So you might be feeling that before the new moon, after the new moon, but it's hitting right in the middle of the month on February 17th. This other thing we see here, it says solar eclipse. Solar eclipse. So it's actually going to be an annular solar eclipse. When I saw that, I was like, okay. I was like, you mean annular? Like annual? I don't know. I looked it up. This is actually very cool. Annular eclipse. Watch this. It's a donut. It's a donut. Isn't this cool? So this is the difference between a regular eclipse. Okay, we've got like a starburst here on the outside with a black hole in the middle. Spicy vibes. Honestly, this is giving spicy vibes, because the sun is like activation. That's the sun. The sun is activation energy, and then the moon is resting energy. Okay. Or like intrinsic versus extrinsic. The internal self, the external self. They're kind of both right there. They're saying mostly, for the most part, be in that place of incubation. Be in that place of thought. Be in that place of contemplation. The sun around it is like telling you, because you will be activating. Because you need to plan for activation. This isn't just rest, take a nap, I'll see you in the morning, right? This isn't just call it a night, watch a movie, whatever, right? This is like intentionality. There is a reason here. And again, that Aquarius, and it just goes right into itself. It literally just feeds right into itself about Aquarian energy, rebel with a cause. You're going to be, maybe you're going to be on the internet. Maybe you're going to be like doing lots of research. Maybe you're just going to be sitting in your thoughts and you're just going to be stewing and stewing and stewing. You're going to be in that place. Possibly, if you are, be ready for it, babe. Don't reject it. Don't, and you might be really tired, honestly. Like, I feel like whenever this shit happens, I'm just so tired. Like, I have nothing left to give. I'm not kidding. I have nothing left to give. I have nothing left to give. But funny enough, we do. We always have something left to give. So understanding what that is for you, honoring yourself, giving yourself space. Being tired might be the thing that says, slow the fuck down, chill out. Maybe it starts off like that. Maybe it starts by getting to bed early. And then it ends up with you being fresh with ideas, right? There you go. Maybe, who knows? Who the fuck knows? I don't know. I don't know. I have friends that are like, you knew. I'm like, I didn't. I swear. I'm not sitting here thinking about this because that'll drive you crazy. Because it did. It used to drive me crazy. These type of things used to drive me crazy. And I was like, you know what? Shit's going to happen. Shit's always happening. But, it's good to be on the uppity up of what is happening and what is going on. So that when shit does hit the fan, you're like, what's that mean? Right? Because I can see it. Now we know this is for a reason. Right? So yeah, so there you go. If you need anything, let me know. Post up in the comments if any of this makes sense to you. If you're feeling some kind of way about these things, let me know because I know we all experiencing, I don't like to make generalizations, like, I don't know, but sometimes that's not it. That's not the vibe, and that's okay. But this is the vibe that we're talking about for February, January moving into February. And if it resonates, I love you for that. I love that for you. So I'm going to do a quick reading for the month of February. I'll do a quick reading for the month of February. What is the message as it serves our highest and greatest good in the highest and best way? What is the message that we need to know or carry with us for February as it serves our highest and greatest good in the highest and best way? Please and thank. All right, fantastic. All right, ready? Here we go. We have the Three of Pentacles in reverse. In reverse. Now, normally, the Three of Pentacles is talking about togetherness, all together, let's do this now. Okay? February, it's in reverse. So there's a couple things here. Be aware of who is not in alignment with you. Be aware of where your internal self, as it's being expressed, is not landing with who's around you. If you feel like you need to hold back in how you speak and in the things that matter to you, you need to be looking at those relationships a little closer, okay? And this goes in life. But especially in February, okay? You're going to have some opportunity to recognize and give space to the fact, like, that person is not completely the type of person I thought they were. in the sense if you think like that's one of my best friends, or what that's somebody who is this for me or that for me. This month you might realize, you know what? I need to stop putting so much emphasis on this relationship because they're actually not all of that for me. And that's okay. That's okay. Nobody should be everything for you, but knowing who people are in your life is going to make your life a lot easier because you're not going to be putting responsibility and pressure and roles on people who that's not what they're set up for. Set up your relationships for success if you need to keep those relationships. If not, boo. There's nothing that's keeping you from being like, you know what, my peace. I need my peace. And like even giving that much and having to hold myself back at that much a little bit, right? That's too much. That's too much. Okay. So knowing where that's happening, right? The other thing is not together. February might be a solo journey for you. Okay. February might be about you leaning on you more. And maybe you're like, fuck, I always lean on myself. But maybe you hope that other people will be there for you, or hope that other people will be able to see you or understand you and show up for you. Now, that doesn't mean that people shouldn't show up for you. That's not what I'm saying, okay? Because people should show up for you because, you got to have people in your corner. But knowing, again, when you're putting unnecessary roles and pressure on other people, when what you're on is a solo journey. It's like going, hey, come to the carnival with me, right? But then you want to go on a ride that's like, is a single seater, right? And they have to be like all the way on the other side. Like they can't even share a seat with you. You know what I mean? Like just know when you're asking for support just because you want someone to hold your hand versus the actual hard part of the journey, which you have to do. You have to do that part and you have to do that for yourself. Okay. All right. So there you go. That's your February. All right, y'all. You're amazing. You're awesome. You are already perfect. Already perfect. And you got this. All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.